This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. TurboTax experts make all your moves count. Filing with 100% accuracy and getting your max refund guaranteed. So whether you started a podcast like this one, side hustled your way to concert tickets, or quit your job to stream video games online full-time, switch to TurboTax and make your moves count. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
When Sweet Tarts dared to combine sweet and tart, they thought, why stop there? Why not create other exciting and unexpected combinations, like rainbows and ropes, or fruity and gummy, or chewy and more chewy? That's why they created fun treats like Sweet Tarts Twisted Rainbow Ropes, Gummies Fruity Splits, and Chewy Fusions. When you dare to combine, it's sure to blow your mind. Sweet Tarts, dare to combine. Visit sweettartscandy.com to shop now.
Hi listeners, I'm Carolina.
And I'm Tessa, and together we are Femme Regard Podcast.
Femme.
We are a show dedicated to educating and entertaining underdeveloped filmmakers and film enthusiasts alike.
We love sharing our experiences as filmmakers, what we've learned and what we've gone through.
And we love bringing on professional industry guests.
We want our listeners to learn from the best and get an honest account of the biz.
So come join the Femme Fam and give us a listen every Friday.
Streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube and our website, femregard.com, and of course, the Geekscape Network.
It took us 20 episodes. This is episode 20, but we're finally doing a polka.
It's crazy that it takes this long to get to a thing that I feel like is become his, like, one of his biggest calling cards.
Yeah. And so this is really an interesting one. So here's a little bit of the wiki description. Yankovic's very first polka medley. It appeared on In 3D, obviously. This, along with Hot Rock's Polka, are Yankovic's only polka medleys to focus on popular rock songs from the 60s and 70s rather than contemporary songs. Although Polka on 45 does include some of the latter, like Talking Heads and the Police. The song title is a take of the medley released novelty band Stars on 45, and their self-titled single. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. And I think the only way to do this is to literally go song by song.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's also just, we have the first of many polkas we're going to cover on this, but I have to just at the start point out that this is one of those things about Al that, like, from a musical perspective, these polkas are absolutely insane.
Yes.
This is like the craziest. I have talked to other musician friends and stuff about Al, and it's a constant thing. Anytime like the polkas come up, people are like, great songwriters I know be like, you put a gun to my head and I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it is so challenging the way that he stitches these things together, the way he creates these little transitions and turnarounds and segues, and the way that they so smoothly flow from one song to the next is, he makes it sound so easy.
Yes.
When he does
for
these.
Sure.
And it is so not easy to do.
So I have a friend who will definitely be on a future episode of this podcast, who is the lead singer and accordion player for a polka band. And I've been diving more into polka as I've been able to digitize a lot of my grandfather's old cassette tapes, both of his band and just stuff that he would put on tape. And polka in its own right is a very underappreciated and difficult genre of music to play well. Like,
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, in any kid's cartoon from the 90s, it's like, oh, the nerdy kid loves like accordion and polka, but like, it is truly a difficult instrument and genre of music to play. And then to take contemporary music, make it into a polka, and also make it sound good, and then, as you said, to stitch and weave those melodies in a way that doesn't feel jarring. Insane.
It's crazy. I like learning how to play. This was another one of those. When I did the marathon, I was learning how to play all the songs. A friend of mine suggested an idea that I loved, but I didn't use, which was that I should do all of his albums straight through but skip the polkas and then do all of the polkas in a row at the end. And I was like, that might kill me.
Yeah, no, that's insane.
Because they are so difficult. There's so much going on. Every one of those, I had to make notes for myself on how to keep up. And each polka, just one polka, is pages of notes. Like I'm flying through it on the, like, it is so complicated. There's so much happening. Yeah, I can't say enough about the musicianship and talent that goes into making these. Because in a way, it almost feels like it's just they're straight covers in their own way. Like he's just playing the originals, so like that makes it easier. But man, this is so much harder than doing like the more straight parody that he does so often with these songs.
And we'll get into the cover aspect in a second.
Yeah.
I do want to just quickly ask, out the gate, what's your opinion on this one? Obviously, it's our first polka, so it's just going in the number 1 slot for both of us for polkas. I mean, personally for me, I think it's a good one. It's not one that I revisit compared to certain other polkas, especially in the later albums. But
yeah,
how about you? Is this a favorite of the polkas, or just kind of sort of in the middle somewhere?
This is not my favorite, in large part because, well, I think he gets, talking about how like difficult these are, I think he gets better at the polkas as he goes on. And I also, all of the, I guess a lot of like the classic rock stuff that is in this polka is just not my favorite stuff.
The other thing that's crazy about this, and I'll say this now as a lead into the conversation, because it starts off with the beer barrel polka. This has way more songs that were originally polkas in it than most Al songs. There's like 3 of them that pop up. Usually there is just the contemporary songs and nothing else. But yeah, it kicks off with the beer barrel polka, and then very seamlessly blends right into the polka of Jocko Homo by Devo.
Yep.
They tell us that we lost our tails, evolving up from little snails. I say it's all just wind and sails. Are we not men? We are Devo. Are we not men? D-E-V-O.
Which is a great start and also a little bit of an homage to what we can expect in the next year from Al.
Yes.
And you and I have talked at length about our love of Devo, but I mean,
so good.
The way he sings that opening verse, just so good. This song, if you don't know this Devo song, check this shit out because this song rules.
Yeah. And this is also, again, we're just like, he does change. I feel like in the later ones, and it's funny because I'm like, I think as we go on here, I correct myself. Sometimes, what's the way it is in your head is not how it actually is. But in this one, he takes more liberties with the arrangement of the songs than he does later on. Like later on, he's really playing them closer to how they actually are. But in this one,
this sounds, I mean,
he's Weird Al-ifying all of these.
Yeah, but this is not, I mean, if you played the original song by Devo and then played me this polka, you can't really find the same melody line anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately, like I said, it goes into another old polka song, the clarinet polka, which I believe is just like a public domain polka at this point. But then that blends in to Smoke on the Water, which is it's a smooth transition for sure. What are your thoughts on Smoke on the Water? I feel like it's a very hotly contested classic rock song at this point.
So, just an interesting side note, which I guess I never really appreciated before. The first time I saw Al on the first Vanity tour, that was the cover that he did. He closed the show. It wasn't the last song he played. The last song he played was Saga Begins. But he did a straight cover of Smoke on the Water.
Oh, that's right. You did mention that.
Which he had already touched on in this polka. I had forgotten that at the time. And I guess right up until now. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those songs that's like, I don't hate it, but I also, if I never heard it again in my life, I wouldn't miss it.
That's kind of where I'm at. I mean,
it's one of those, like, when I hear someone playing Smoke on the Water, I just picture the sound of, like, a child in Guitar Center.
Yes.
Playing that riff.
Exactly. I mean, I am not a proficient guitarist, but I can play Smoke on the Water.
Just about anyone can, which is, and it's not that it's not a great riff. It's just a very straightforward, it's easy. It's a good, like, baby's first guitar riff.
Yeah. The next up is the only song I actually really do not know out of the context of this polka, which is Berlin's Sex I'm a.
I'm a boy. Well,
Sexima.
Do you know this? Do you know this one? Do you have any?
I do know it. This is a really interesting one because it's a real outlier on this record. It's without a doubt the least notable song he does in this polka, because almost all of them, as you sort of said at the beginning, almost all of these at the time of this polka are already somewhat established tracks. The Devo song, I think, is somewhat new at that point.
Devo song's somewhat new. Police is a little new, and Talking Heads are a little new.
Sure.
And we'll get into the Talking Heads one. I think may have been a last second edition, and
Right.
And I'll explain that when we get there. But
yeah, this one is not. I would assume most people have not heard this song by Berlin.
Fair.
It's cool. Berlin's a cool band. I like a kind of darker new wave band of that time period.
They did Take My Breath Away, right? That was their big hit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
My favorite part of the entire polka is the next one, which is the "Hey, hey, hey, Jude."
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, 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 Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better, 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 better.
It is such a fun transition. It's my favorite transition in the polka. Probably my favorite overall polka-fied song in this polka, actually.
I would agree with that. And he does only a very small amount of it. It's a quick single sort of refrain of "Hey Jude." Yeah, no, the "Hey, hey, hey, Jude" is great. And that's, like, I feel like that also sort of teases some of the future, like how clever he is to like stitch all this stuff together the way that he does. That's a really good.
For
that's
sure.
a good one.
And
yeah.
Look, we're not going to get into our thoughts on the Beatles, but any thoughts on the original song, "Hey Jude"?
"Hey Jude" is another one that, I mean, it's great. The Beatles, I love the Beatles. The "Hey Jude's" a great song. I would argue, maybe, depending on my mood, "Hey Jude" might be approaching Smoke on the Water territory as a song that I enjoy, but maybe I don't need to, like, I'm not going to throw that on.
I think that "Hey Jude" is in a very special realm for me, where it's like, I could hear it one day and be so annoyed that it's on like the playlist that I'm listening to, and like another time be completely moved by it as if I was hearing it for the first time. Like it's one of those songs that when it hits you the right way. I've talked about it with like "Freebird," that like I could listen to "Freebird" a million times and feel nothing, but like there is those occasional times where I hear it and I totally get why it's like the song that people jokingly shout out at a show, because like when it hits you at the exact right point, it's powerful.
Generally speaking, songs like that are like that because they're great. They get played so much that when you should be so lucky to have a song that gets overplayed because it's so good that people can't get enough of it. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't mind. Hey Jude is an objectively great song as far as I'm concerned, but yeah, it is definitely. It
doesn't need to be 7 minutes.
It probably doesn't need to be 7 minutes.
The 4 minutes of Na Na Nas could fade out a lot sooner.
He does really milk it at the end there, doesn't he?
All right, and then that goes into "L.A. Woman" by The Doors.
L.A. woman, you're my woman. Got my mojo rising, Mr. Mojo rising. Hey!
Not a Doors fan in general, and "L.A. Woman" does not rank high among Doors songs that I like either. So this is kind of one of my least favorite parts of the polka.
It's another funny thing of like him making the pick, and he only revisits the Doors way later.
Yes. Oh, we'll get into that.
Oh yeah, I would say there's also some Beatles talk down the line as we continue as well. But yes, the Doors make a brief appearance in album 2 and then come back with a vengeance significantly later. But I agree. I don't mind. It's been a really long and slow process for me to get on board with the Doors, and I'm starting to get there, but this is still not my favorite.
An artist that definitely does not get revisited again by Al after this. We hit "Indigata Davida" by Iron Butterfly, which I'm sure you, like me, Simpsons introduced the song into your life, correct?
Of course. Of course.
Hey!
The organ solo.
"Garden of Eden" by Iron Butterfly.
This sounds like rock or roll.
Hey, Mars, remember we used to make out to this hymn? Yes. I'll tell you what.
Exactly.
I fucking love the original version of this song still. I had a CD mix that had like the 17-minute version of this song, drum solo and all. And like, yeah, all of the solos, they get tedious, but like when this song rocks, it fucking rocks. And as a horror fan, the usage of this song in the movie Manhunter is like iconic. It is unbelievable how well it works in that movie.
That part is cool. I would say this is not my favorite thing, and I remember I have a vivid
going to say
memory.
not my favorite Iron Butterflies.
Oh God, no. It's I don't remember what this was. This probably was at the record store as well that I worked at, like where someone was like, "Oh, have you heard the full version of Inagata Davida?" I was like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, put it on like the 17," and I was like, "Man, this is a chore."
It's a chore. Look, you do not need all 17 minutes of it.
Holy cow! It goes. I just couldn't believe it's just endless.
But at the same time, like I do appreciate it for what it is in the sense of like you do have a song where there are some very talented musicians doing very talented things with their instrument. Did they each need a 4-minute solo to show off their talents? Maybe not, but I mean it's. I think the song does work as maybe a 5-6 minute song. You consolidate some of those solos because you do need that little bit of a dip to build back into the return of the main riff, but I don't think you needed like a full 15-minute divergence to get there.
No, certainly not. In the grand scheme, I mean, I guess I'm grateful that Al only inserted a small amount of it into this polka and didn't do a full
it's a 20-minute polka.
Yeah, a different his version, like another Saga Begins level, like I'm just gonna go for it, like
go all in.
Yeah.
All right, and then we follow Inagata Davida leads right into Hey Joe.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? Gonna shoot my old lady, caught her messing around with another man.
Al does some really goofy ways of singing some of the lyrics of this one.
Yeah.
Real chipper.
Complete with the pistol sound effects.
Yes.
Where you're going with
Joe!
that gun in your hand. Yes. I also like the fact that it's Hey Jude and then Hey Joe very shortly after that.
I almost am disappointed he didn't reprise the Hey, 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 Joe.
I'm sure it crossed his mind.
I mean, this song's another fine. Like, I enjoy Jimi Hendrix music quite a bit, but Hey Joe, it's a fun one. Again, the weird stuff that you hear songs in the first time, I think of Empire Records when I think of Hey Joe. I think of the character of Joe finding out that the money's missing.
That's right. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. TurboTax experts make all your moves count. Filing with 100% accuracy and getting your max refund guaranteed. So whether you started a podcast like this one, side hustled your way to concert tickets, or quit your job to stream video games online full-time, switch to TurboTax and make your moves count. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
This episode is brought to you by Tinder. Take control of your 2024 love life with Tinder. It's easy. It's fun. It's the place for possibilities. On Tinder, you can find someone who totally gets you in your feels. Someone just to vibe with. Take it fast. Take it slow. It's totally up to you. So grab your phone, tap that download button, and make this year epic. Explore all of the possibilities for yourself. Tinder. It starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Now we hit Burning Down the House, Talking Heads. So whenever Al performed this live before the album was released, in place of Burning Down the House was Prince's 1999 and Bad Boys Get Spanked by the Pretenders. I'm not familiar with that Pretenders song, but this would, I'm assuming, without any other notes, I'm assuming this is the beginning of the long relationship of Al desperately trying to do anything related to Prince and getting shut down every single time.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that makes a lot of sense because we were saying before how like he changes the melodies. Like the Burning Down the House section of this is so short.
It's unbelievable. And
it is literally just that I'm an ordinary guy burning down the house. The end. Like, so he really could have put a number of things in there.
Which it also feels like a waste of a Talking Heads song because like
does, yeah.
that song bounces into so many weird pieces. That is a really good. I mean, hot take. Talking Heads, really good band. But
no arguments here.
But yeah, that like even the verses in that dun 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 dun.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Like,
and I wonder. I
mean,
he
polka is.
It's another good example of he, put it in this, but I guess felt like he still had something to say because Talking Heads also is a band that recurs in Al's.
For sure.
They pop up again later. I mean, not a strict parody, but one of his more obvious style parodies.
Oh, for sure. And we will get there soon on a very, as we've said, very underrated album.
An underrated album and a very special episode. That'll be. I can't wait to talk about that.
I can't wait for that. And then we get into Hot Blooded by Foreigner.
I'm hot-blooded, check it and see. Got a fever of 103. Come on, baby, do you do more than dance? I'm hot-blooded, hot-blooded.
I have no evidence of this, but I'm sure it's in a Simpsons episode. I'm sure that's probably how I heard this song for the first time. A lot of 70s rock songs I feel like I learned because of Homer Simpson flashback episodes.
Yeah, this probably was in the Simpsons. Hot-blooded. I actually really I think Foreigner is an underrated band from that time period. They have a lot of really good songs.
They are there's a lot of like that 70s rock that I just think is so good. Yeah, Foreigner, a band that I know Homer Simpson has talked about. Like I put Foreigner right there with Grand Funk Railroad as like one of those bands where it's just like they are so much better than like 2020s memory seems to be for that.
For a while, I feel like everyone just chalked all of that up to like dad rock.
Yeah.
Like it all fell under that type of umbrella. But now if you go back and listen to some of those records, there's some great stuff. I mean, honestly, Jackson Browne, which we were just talking about recently, also fits that criteria.
It just kind of gets written off.
Really underrated for how great the songs are. Yeah, totally.
Then we go into another original polka like song from the past, Bubbles in the Wine, which was Lauren Welk's long-standing theme song. It's fine. I mean, I have no connection to the song, and they keep it short.
It is interesting, though, like you pointed out. I never actually put together how many references to other existing, almost like polkas, or even like that. This particular section of it always made me think of this. Almost sounds like a classical composition just dropped into the middle of this.
It's very weird. And then we get into the Police, Every Breath You Take.
Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you.
So we can say, like, Police get 2 references in one album.
That's true.
Which is a rarity that doesn't happen too often. I think the Police are pretty high on artists that he's done references to.
Yeah.
Because I can think of 3 off the top of my head. I actually think the only artist who's got more than that is R.E.M.
Wow. Now this is interesting. Okay.
Because he does Losing My Religion in a polka. He does Bang Blame in a different polka.
Oh, that's
by
right. I forgot
R.E.M.
about Bang Blame, yeah.
Frank's 2000-inch TV is an R.E.M. parody, and then Spam.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I'm missing a Police one. What's the third Police?
Velvet Elvis has to be a Police.
Oh, Velvet Elvis is definitely... Oh, and then... of course. And then Kate Suede. Which is what we were actually talking about. I forgot about Velvet Elvis. No, that is definitely... that's definitely Police style. Wow, yeah. So it's interesting. Like, does R.E.M. have the most credit? Wow.
I think they do. I mean, I don't think there's been any artist since I did this, but like maybe 10 years ago, I sat down. I was like, I want to find out who the artist is that he has done the most homages to, and it was R.E.M. with 4. And I don't think like if that was in like 2010. I don't think any of his new albums have had giant references to artists that he's covered multiple times in the past. So I'm pretty sure that is just it.
I think you're probably right. Wow, that's so interesting.
But yeah, Every Breath You Take, it's I like that song. I mean, there's a million and one things about why it's creepy. I think Sting is very open that it's supposed to be creepy. So like, the people who are getting married to it, it's not people misreading the lyrics to ruin your wedding song. You didn't pay attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll talk about the Police in other episodes for obvious reasons. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the Police? The band, not the actual department of individuals.
I have mixed feelings about the Police because there are songs of theirs that I really like, and then there's.
I think they're one of those groups that when they're good, they're great.
Yeah,
but when they're bad, it's kind of rough.
I hesitate to say this, but I think I'm going to. I've just decided I'm going to. I think the Police are overall a little overrated.
I think that's fair. Do you have a favorite Police song?
Do I have a favorite Police song? I was just going to say Man in a Suitcase, which is hilarious because it's just a ska song.
Yeah,
so of course I like that.
Everything She Does Is Magic, I think, is a beautiful song.
That's a great song. Every Little Thing is great. And Message in a Bottle, as like huge as that is, I think that's also a great song.
Yeah.
I saw the Police. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I saw the Police when they did their like reunion tour a few years back. I was pretty disappointed. I thought they were not that good.
That's upsetting.
And I was annoyed because the opener for that particular show was Elvis Costello.
Ooh.
And he was so much better. I saw that show at the PNC Bank Arts Center in New Jersey. And I was up on the lawn, which is just general admission. And Elvis Costello was just crushing. And I was standing up watching the show, trying to enjoy him. And all of these old people behind me were yelling at me to sit down. Because I was blocking their view. They didn't want to stand up for Elvis Costello. And I got so mad. But then I sat down. And then Sting came out to sing Allison with Elvis Costello. And then everyone stood up. And I was like, I hate you people.
Yeah. How dare you?
I think they're fine. I don't...
I mean, shout out to Stuart Copeland for just being a very, I think, still to this day, underrated drummer.
Stuart Copeland's great. I actually think all of the musicians in the Police are really good. I think Sting is an amazing bass player. And Andy Summer, the guitarist, is super underrated. Like, he's got really interesting stuff in that band. Like
least notable name of the three members, for sure.
Yes, for sure. It's one of those odd groups where I feel like the sum is not greater than the individual parts. Like, them all coming together. It actually reminds me, I was going to say, I feel the same way about, like, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Right, like everyone in that band is awesome, and then they come together and they're like, okay.
So only because you mentioned them, I literally just the other day went for a walk and was like, what do I want to listen to on the walk? And I was like, I haven't listened to One Hot Minute by Red Hot Chili Peppers in a really long time. And I know that album was like considered one of the biggest flops of the 90s.
Yes.
But honestly, I know they had their creative differences. Dave Navarro brought such an interesting energy to that band on that record.
He did. There's some interesting moments on that record. And I should say, there's, like the Police, there are Red Hot Chili Peppers songs that I really like. And they were a huge band. I was a young kid. As a bass player, you're going to have a Red Hot Chili Peppers phase. There's just no way you won't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Flea it's like having a Primus phase.
They're amazing musicians in that band. And that's kind of what I think is interesting. And I feel like sort of the same way about the Police. It's like these incredible people who come together and make like fine music.
Red Hot Chili Peppers is one of those bands where the weakest link is their singer.
Yes,
in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Like if Red Hot Chili Peppers just put out an instrumental album, it would be like one of the greatest records
Those
ever
three
put
dudes
out.
as a band, like a three-piece band, are incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible musicians.
And kind of proven by the fact that like anytime that they've tried to do something without their guitarist John,
Frusciante, yeah.
It's just they can't find someone that can gel with Chad and Flea on that level.
Yeah, that's why they keep bringing him. He's like quit and rejoined the band so many times.
I think he's on his fourth run with them or something like that.
Yeah.
But then we go from the Police into Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash.
Darling, you gotta let me know. Should I stay or should I go? If you say that you are mine, I'll be here till the end of time. But you gotta let me know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Should I stay or should I go?
This is the song I've decided I'm going to give an award on every polka for song that works insanely well on an accordion that shouldn't, And congratulations, Clash. You have gotten that award on this polka. Hearing the accordion on the Should I Stay or Should I Go melody in the background shouldn't work, but it sounds
glorious.
Awesome.
It's glorious.
It sounds so good. Jumping into another band that I controversially don't like that much. The Rolling Stones, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
But it's all right now. In fact, it's a gas. But it's all right. Jumpin' Jack Flash is a gas.
I'm slowly becoming a Stones fan. I'm slowly getting into...
Now I'm excited to do the Hot Rocks polka.
Yeah, well, so... On the Before My Time podcast, Rolling Stones is Gelsey Laurie's favorite band. So she may have to be the guest for the Hot Rocks
I would
polka.
love, let's do it. Absolutely.
But she, for the 50-year anniversary of Exile on Main Street, she had me listen to that, and we discussed it. And it's a great record.
That was the album that got me into the Stones.
Yeah. I think the thing that I've learned with the Stones is that you really almost have to shut your brain off to the singles. And almost the opposite of what I said earlier about, like, Bob Marley and Tom Petty is like, if you're only listening to the singles of the Stones, you're actually really missing the big picture.
Yeah.
And like diving into those deeper tracks. Currently, my favorite Stones album is Goat Head Soup. I really like that album. 100 Years is my favorite song by them that I've discovered in this year of diving in. But Jumpin' Jack Flash, it's fine. It's like, it's kind of one. The Stones have so many songs that just kind of feel like they've always existed that I forget that, like, at some point they were a new song.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. They also have that weird thing of, like, being young. I remember people being like, oh, it's like everyone has, like, the Beatles or the Stones. It's like, which type of a rock?
It doesn't make sense. It's
that
not
doesn't
even
make any sense.
No. If you were going, first of all, it's apples to oranges. If you had to do that battle, it really needed to be the Beatles versus the Beach Boys. Like, those were like...
That makes more sense as a comparison,
So much more sense. All right, and then we end. He always has his big ending song, My Generation, The Who.
People try to put us down. Talking about my generation. Just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Saying they do look awful cold. Talking about my generation. Hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation. This is my generation, baby. My generation. Well, I'm talking about my generation. Hey!
Love The Who for what they are. My Generation, though, is like a prime example of proto-punk to me. Like, this is like punk before punk music, so it completely makes sense that Al is ending with My Generation. My first exposure to the song was Green Day covering it on Kerplunk.
Oh, yeah.
So I always think of it as a punk song because of that, but yeah, this song rules.
I would, just as a quick pitch to this, because I feel like people don't, nowadays, everyone, like, when people think of The Who, they think of Baba O'Reilly and that, like, their later period hits, which were huge and they're great, but the early Who records are so raw.
Oh, that garage
so
rock
aggro
sound.
garage, like this, like British invasion stuff, man. They are nasty on those records.
It took me a long time to get that on this song. The stuttering is to make you think that he's about to say fuck in this song.
Yeah, all the weird, and those, man, I love that so much. And Al does do the stutter on one of
he does.
the lines in this, but it's such a random. I always think a moment like that in a song, the idea of someone in the studio, like, first trying that, and then looking around like, what do you think? Is that cool or is that weird?
I mean, that is like, you're taking a big swing.
Oh,
like, you have to know in that moment.
To do.
Yeah, you're like, either people are gonna fucking love this or they're gonna think it's the dumbest thing and turn the song off. Yeah. And then something worth noting, I'll probably end up mentioning this on every polka that we do, because who knows? Every episode could be someone's first episode, but it does end on the Ear Booker polka, which is not a real song. The Ear Booker Polka is a song created by Al for all the polka medleys for the time when they are not playing another band's song, and it is used for how the music gets paid out. So, like, during the 5 seconds that he sings Burning Down the House, he has to pay money to the Talking Heads, but for the 2 seconds in between that and, like, Hey Joe and Hot Blooded, he can write off those as not part of a cover, because it's part of the Ear Booker polka, which says a lot about how expensive these polkas probably drive up the overall cost of making this album for buying the royalties for these songs basically per second.
Sort of. Well, so it's interesting to know because I don't think, I could be wrong. I don't know exactly how this would work for him, but generally speaking, for these sorts of things, okay, so as quickly as we can get into, like, generally, if you do a cover of a song as an artist and you just like, I'm going to sing this person's song, I'm going to sing the lyrics the way they did them and the melody the way that they did them, you can do that always as long as you give all of the revenue from that track to the original artist, right? Mm-hmm. No one can stop you from doing a cover. Al could have done a million Prince straight covers if he wanted to and gave Prince 100% of the money, and then that's that.
Yeah.
In this context, where he's doing all of these covers stitched together, I don't think he would have to pay money in advance, but he has to divvy up the royalties in a way that everyone has to agree to. So that's a weird thing to do. That's like you have to approach all of these artists and be like, I am doing a song that features 10 seconds of your song. How do you feel about 8% of the money that this song earns goes to you? And they have to agree to it because if you're not doing a straight cover, then it's actually something of a negotiation. And that explains how, I will get into this as we go down the line, and we even talked about Prince on this one.
Yeah.
He does have to get permission from all of these people for some version of an interpolation and them getting a fraction of what they would get for a typical cover song. And the Earbooker Polka thing makes a lot of sense because that's him basically giving himself some credit for all of the work that he did to put this together in the first place. Otherwise, it would be as if Al got nothing for composing this when, you know, despite the fact that they're covers, he clearly composed a ton in making this track.
No, he has to make it worth something to him.
Yeah.
All right, well, I mean, that is our first polka. We got through it in a shorter amount of time than I thought we would, honestly.
Yeah, it was not too bad. I mean, again, well, so we said already, this is by default, this is number one. This is the best polka so far. It's definitely not my favorite overall.
I know that there's going to be some in the 90s that really are undeniable bangers. I'm trying to remember. I wonder if this will hang on for Dare to Be Stupid. I can't remember what's on the Dare to Be Stupid polka, so that'll be an exciting experience for me.
Yeah, I think that we will probably change. I love. Well,
I mean, Dare to Be Stupid is at this time in my memory banks like top 2 albums for me by Al. Who knows though? I could re-listen to it and be like, oh, there's a lot more filler on this than I remember. That's the fun of this show, Matt.
It is.
You never know.
God, this is such a fun show we have.
Yeah. So we have finished side A. If you were listening to in 3D on a vinyl, so tune in next week. Tune in next week when we flip that bad boy over and start side B.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.